Now up next, seizures were a regular part of her life with all the stigma that came with them until she took a bold step, changing her life, and now is using hers to tell others. The amazing Debbie at the Leading Edge table next. Welcome back to Leading Edge. Do you know someone with epilepsy? Think about it. I'll bet you do. My next guest had her first seizure at 18 months of age. She had been dealing with, was it whooping cough at the time? Okay. Seizures would become a part of her life for years. They happen when they want to, often at terrible times for the sufferer, not that there's ever a good time. When medication was running out of promise and solutions, she turned to a more drastic path of treatment. She is Debbie Harmon Ferentz, who has written her story in her book, Amazing Debbie, My Secret Before and After Brain Surgery for Epilepsy. So I gave away the secret there with the treatment you get, but we'll come back to that in a moment. Before we get there, what was it like living with, first of all, welcome. What was it like living with epilepsy?
It was bad. I mean, it was terrible. As a kid, I was taking a lot of medicine, so I was always like really tired, and like you go to school and you're just not into like doing like when you come home you don't do the homework, you just don't feel like doing the homework. It's hard to do it. It's just hard to function because I was on so much drugs all my life.
Seizures, how often would you have them?
Okay, as a child, I was having quite a few like grand mal seizures. I was in the hospital.
What do they call them? Grand mal?
They were grand mal seizures.
Those are the big ones.
Right. Right. I was at 18 months old. That's when I had my first one, and I was in a coma for several days. And I was told I wouldn't live. My parents were told I would never live, that I wouldn't function to be a normal kid or a normal adult. And then as I grew older, I still had the grand mal seizures up until I was like 13. And then I started having a different type of seizure.
I was going to say, not all seizures are equal, are they, in epilepsy?
No, there's several types of seizures. So the type I had afterwards, I always knew, even when I was having a grand mal, I would always know I had an aura, which is a feeling, it's like the beginning of a seizure.
Well, you've anticipated the next question. Tell me about these auras, kind of an advance notice that a seizure is coming? The seizure's knocking on the door.
Right. There's different types of auras, but mine would be like a funny feeling in my stomach.
Oh.
And I would go to my mom and I would say, Mom, my stomach's hurting. And she'd say, what kind of, I have a stomach ache. She'd say, what kind? I'd say, the funny one, and she would know.
She would know.
And I was only probably like 7 years old.
You ever have these in public places?
Yes.
You ever have them in school?
Yes.
What is that like?
It was horrible. I was picked on. I mean, I always hid it as a kid. My parents, I even begged them not to tell anyone. I didn't want to share it. I begged them not to tell my teachers, so no one knew. And then I was in 6th grade, and I had a seizure in school. And a kid, when I came out of it, he was making fun of me, and I'll never forget him as long as I live. He made me the strong person I am. And then I had
He didn't set out to do you any favors. You took his actions and turned them around to your benefit, young lady.
Exactly.
You were bullied.
Right, exactly. I was very bullied. You know, that's why I'm so against it, and that's why I guess I wrote this book, to help other kids to not let kids bully them, or even adults bully you. You know, because epilepsy, you know, it is so common. So many people
How prevalent?
have. One out of 26 people have epilepsy.
That's pretty amazing.
It is very.
And it's one of the reasons that we have set aside this month. Isn't this, November has special significance for you?
Right. Epilepsy is November is Epilepsy Awareness Month.
Yeah. Well, see, obviously I was going to ask how you treated it. It was just with a pharmacological, it was prescription drugs.
Right, exactly.
Okay. At some point, you decided to take a bolder step. The drugs just weren't working, or they were controlling your life. There was a reason you wanted to look further.
Well, as I got older, and after I had my son, I was taking a lot of medication, and the doctor, it got to the point where there was no choice. He said, Debbie, you know, you're going to have to think about brain surgery.
Brain surgery.
Right.
In brain surgery, they do what for epilepsy? I mean, what is the brain surgery?
Okay, well, first of all, I went through 6 months of testing.
To find out the source of your seizures in the brain.
Right, to find out where it was coming from, where the seizures were coming from, because there's different types. Like, it would depend on where the seizures are coming from if I could have the surgery or not.
Left temporal lobe was yours, identified.
Right.
So they go in and they remove part of the brain, or what do they do, Debbie?
Right, because that part of the brain actually is dead. It's dead matter, because I've had so many bad seizures when I was growing up that I killed that part of the brain, and that was what was bringing on my seizures. So once they removed that part of the brain, then my seizures were gone.
Oh, I want to get there. This has a happy ending on this Thanksgiving weekend, but still, on the way going in, there had to have been risks.
Oh, yeah,
going into the brain.
Right.
And are you guaranteed of success when you go into that surgery?
Absolutely
Okay,
not.
so it was just at a point for you that even those serious risks were worth taking because of the life you were living.
Yes,
All right.
definitely.
All right, you jumped ahead, but that's okay. You did have, I think, a year maybe after the procedure, you would have a surgery again that you think was probably related more to medications.
Right, had a seizure? Yeah. It was, did I have the seizure, you mean?
Yeah, after the surgery.
Right. They had started taking me off my medicine, and they took me off my medicine too soon. They said my brain hadn't healed.
Okay.
And so that's what brought my seizures on. I knew it was happening, but I didn't do anything about it.
So then medications, even post-surgery, are part of your regimen
Oh, yeah.
ongoing.
Yeah.
That will be for the rest of your life?
Yeah, well, some people yes and some people no. Like after that, I was afraid to ever totally go off my medicine. It was like that would be my security blanket.
Do we know what causes epilepsy?
Epilepsy can be caused by, basically, you can have epilepsy anytime in your life. And they really truly don't know exactly what causes some types of epilepsy, but you can get epilepsy from a high fever, from
An injury?
drug abuse, from injury, yes, playing.
Does it run in the family tree?
Yes, if you're born with epilepsy, then you have your child will have a higher risk of having epilepsy or your cousins or nieces, or your nieces might have a higher risk than your own child. But if
Do
you're
you
not born
ever
with it,
outgrow epilepsy?
yes, you can do that also. That's when I was 12 years old and I had my grand mal seizure getting off a bus. 13 years old, I got off my bus. I was taken off my medicine for over a year. And the doctors had said I'd outgrown my seizures. And I was getting off the bus and I had a grand mal seizure.
After that time, after all that promise
Yeah,
of
right. And I had a real life.
All right, you have been seizure-free. You ready for this? Here's a reason to give thanks. You've been seizure-free for how long?
Almost 19 years.
Isn't that amazing?
It's
Life without seizures after having a life up to that point with seizures. Why'd you write this book? And I give you a big play for doing so?
Well, because I said, so many kids are bullied. I was bullied growing up. Even as an adult, it's hard, just life is hard with epilepsy, and people don't talk about epilepsy. That's like a hidden disease or hidden illness. They hide it, we're ashamed of it. I always hid it my entire life, and so I decided, I have a life now, and I shouldn't be ashamed of it anymore, and I want other kids to not be ashamed of it. I want them to say, I have epilepsy, it's just an illness. There's so many illnesses. Epilepsy is nothing to be ashamed of.
Yeah, we don't beat up on other people for having an illness. Why should we beat up on people who have epilepsy? What kind of response you get into the book?
Really good, very good. I have people I have global friends everywhere. They email me. I get phone calls from all over the world, from Africa, from Australia. Seriously, it's amazing.
That's cool. Where can we get the book? Amazing Debbie, My Secret Before and After Brain Surgery for Epilepsy. Where can we find it?
At Books A Million on Monroe Street, they have it in the store.
Okay.
And Barnes and Noble, and then Books A Million. They
Out
have
at Levis?
it. Yes.
Okay.
They have it, and then you can buy it on the website. It's everywhere.
Okay.
eBay.
And I hear that there are some people
Amazon.
working for you to try to get that thing in the libraries as well.
Yes, there
We
are.
just want to get it in your hands, especially if you are living with, or know somebody who is living with epilepsy. We think it'll be very inspiring and empowering for you and that person. My thanks to Debbie Harmon-Ferentz for spending time with us on Leading Edge, talking about epilepsy. Real quickly, I've got less than 30 seconds.
Okay.
In the city of Toledo, Mayor Paula Hicks Hudson has issued a proclamation. Show it to me. Lift it up.
Okay.
Turn it around, because we're kind of proud of this.
Yes.
There we go.
Because we've always, people always hide.
up.
Okay, we hide epilepsy. Well, I had wrote a letter to the mayor and asked her if she could make Epilepsy Awareness Month known in Toledo, Ohio. And so she said yes, and so they sent me. They called me on the phone, and then they sent this to me at work.
Let's go. All right. Thank you so very much. That's from the office of the Mayor, Paula Hicks Hudson. Debbie, I'm glad we've talked for a while. It's nice to finally meet you. You can come back here anytime, okay?
All right. Thank you
Thanks.
so much.
I'm going to be right back. I want to thank all of my guests. Thank you for watching. Have a great Thanksgiving holiday weekend. The rest of it, see you next week.